Hi, welcome back to my channel. In essence of time, we're going to go right into the questions, and we're going to talk about the theory X, Y, and Z. So theory X is made up of three assumptions. The first assumption is that the average person dislikes work and will tend to avoid it if possible. The second assumption is that people need to be directed and controlled under a leader. And then assumption three is that people prefer security over responsibility. So leaders who go with theory X tend to view workers as lazy and unmotivated, and it's kind of like the leader's job to motivate the followers and people to accomplish a certain goal. They believe that these leaders are normally a lot more directive and controlling, and they supervise very closely, being very quick to praise or criticize their followers or workers. And then theory Y is also made up of three assumptions. The first one is that the average person doesn't inherently dislike work, and that they treat work the same, like naturally treat work the same as play. The second assumption is that people will show responsibility and self-control towards goals to which they are committed. And then the third assumption is that in the proper environment, the average person learns to accept and seek responsibility. So with theory Y, people normally, work is more like a satisfaction rather than a punishment, and people are happy to work. People will make like a choice to work on their own, and when they're committed to their work, they work without needing without needing motivation. So basically, when they have a passion for what they are doing, they don't need to be motivated because their passion is what motivates them to do work. So they don't need to be motivated by other people. And then theory Z emphasizes common values and beliefs among members of a group, focusing on communication, collaboration, and consensual decision making. But there's still some kind of like formal authority structure and within this group, and there's an emphasis on individual achievements and contributions. So the one that resonates with me the most is theory Y, because I believe that work should be something that is satisfied and it shouldn't be a punishment, and that finding a passion and working for that passion should be the motivator for you to work towards a certain goal. I also believe that followers, like, I like helping followers find their passion, and through theory Y, leaders are able to help followers find their passion and support them without the need to direct or control them. So out of the three leadership styles, I feel like the democratic leadership style is what comes easiest to me. So that the democratic leadership style is really close to theory Y, and how you treat followers as fully capable of doing work on their own. And then leaders tend to, instead of like commanding and telling followers what to do, they tend to work with their followers, trying to treat everyone fairly without putting themselves above their followers. So instead of like thinking that they're greater than their followers, they think that they're like at the same level as their followers, which I really like. I don't really like kind of like any kind of authority, or I don't like being authoritative, and I don't like telling people what to do. I'd rather work with people and be able to have me and my followers kind of like branch off of each other with their ideas in order to work towards a goal. I also believe that I really like communication, and there really isn't that much communication in any other style between followers except in the democratic leadership style. So I'd be able to like encourage communication between followers and with me, and I'd be able to like provide guidance without giving orders or applying pressure. So I feel like the way people respond when I use this style is that I'm able to create a bond with my followers rather than just kind of command them and tell them what to do. And like it's through that bond that I'm able to work more easily with my followers and kind of like continue maintaining like that same kind of level with them, and kind of like also create a more personable relationship with them. And that's able to make us like be friendly towards one another. It creates a warmer environment, and we're able to create a goal that is in favor of everyone's ideas. So for question three, I feel like in order to have the like most optimal social change, you need to have for the well-being of a community, you need to have a kind of a theory-Y democratic leadership style. So when it comes to social change, like I feel like the best change for everyone, like everyone needs to be heard and all of their ideas need to be communicated in order for there to be an idea, a change for the better of everyone. So if it came to like authoritarian leadership style, like only one person's agenda would be pushed forward, and it might not necessarily agree with everyone else's agenda or like be beneficial for everyone else. But when it comes to democratic leadership style, followers are able to collaborate and communicate with each other, and are able to kind of like create ideas which benefit the whole entire group instead of just one person in authoritarian leadership style. So when it comes to like theory Y and like followers are fully capable of doing work on their own, like social change happens because someone is passionate about making a change. So when someone is passionate about making a change, they don't see that the work that they're doing as actual work. They see it as like I see it as something satisfying and not a punishment, as opposed to theory X. And they show responsibility for the work and like for the goals that they want to commit to, and they also like are willing to act independently and be productive to make social change happen. So yeah, sorry. So basically, when it comes to leaders, a democratic leader would be able to make sure that everyone's voice is heard, and so that their ideas are kind of combined to make a overall change for the good of everyone, compared to like an authoritarian leader who would only make a change only beneficial to themselves or to only like a particular group of people. So for the New York Times Amazon article, I feel like that Amazon's approach to working I don't necessarily agree with it. Even though that Amazon has an algorithm which creates like the peak efficiency and like creates the most amount of money for the company, I feel like the well-being of like the worker and the community of workers is kind of put aside and like is basically taken for granted. I feel like it's not really fair to sacrifice the well-being of the worker in order to make money. Like I feel like the well-being of people is more important than money itself. So I feel like Amazon's being kind of cutthroat and ruthless when it comes to this kind of approach, and that it's not worth treating workers unfairly in order to have your own monetary gain. And this relates to leadership philosophy and style, because the Amazon's leadership style is very theory X and authoritarian, in which like communication is only between leaders and followers. It's very competitive among followers. Only one idea is pushed through, and leaders tell followers what to do, and followers cannot really have a say in what to do. They just kind of like go with what the authoritarian leader has to say. Because of that, there's a lot more structure, there's a lot more direction, which leads to Amazon actually being more efficient, but I still feel like that's not necessarily the best course of action to go when it comes to working and trying to make money. So for question 5 in the Harvard Business Review article on dominant leaders, I do agree with the developments of how like in times of uncertainty, people prefer dominant leadership, because especially like in the world today, there seems to be a lot more uncertainty globally, and that has led to a lot more authoritarian leaders and regimes like popping up and like ending up in positions of power. So like in the United States, like we have an authoritarian leader, the president, who's rather authoritarian, I think. And then like in the United Kingdom, there's authoritarian leaders like Boris Johnson, and in the European Union, there's other leaders that are more authoritarian, and instead of like focusing on the good of the group, they focus more on their own country rather than like the world as a whole or the international community. So I think this will affect global social change efforts, because as stated earlier, social change really needs more of like a democratic leadership style with a theory Y kind of philosophy. And if there's going to be more authoritarian leaders and less democratic leaders, there won't be as much social change, and it will be harder for social change to happen, because authoritarian leaders will end up trying to push their own goals, which necessarily, like, social change will be put on the back burner, and their goals will be put at the forefront, which usually aligns with their own personal goals and doesn't really align with like changing society for the better, for the most part.